Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. I just saw a movie, actually, the other night called Everybody. Everybody. Hope you had a great 4th of July. This is 2023. This movie is a documentary. I did counter programming. I knew that the great majority of people in this area were going to see a movie titled whatever the fuck, the Jim Caviezel, stolen kids movie. So I went to see a totally different movie. Just knowing the area, knowing where I'm at, I knew that this theater would not be crowded on this particular night for this particular film. And I was not wrong. As a matter of fact, I had the theater all to myself. Now, that's not to disparage the actual film or the filmmakers. That's kind of to incentivize you fucks to go out to the movie theater if you like a nice air-conditioned room all to yourself. And if you know how to play the system like I do, you can see a nice movie with a nice big theater all to yourself, like I thoroughly enjoyed. Now, this movie, I decided to go see it to enlighten myself, to inform myself, to educate myself. And I do think that all that happened. First of all, should you see the movie? I think so. Is it a comfortable watch? At times it's not. And we'll get into that, but that's kind of the issue here. I mean, we can't hide from all things that are scary and controversial now, can we? Now you might be saying, well, gee whiz, Mike, what's this movie all about? Or should you go see it? I think you should. It's a difficult topic. It's about intersex people. Intersex people. People that are born somewhere or somehow or some way not quite female, not quite male, as far as their bodily instruments, their testes or their woman parts, female parts, male parts. I don't know what I can say here on this YouTube platform. But basically, what's interesting is that when you think of intersex people, if you ever do, you kind of have this. I'll just share what my mind's eye thought of before I saw this movie. Something from like the 1940s vaudeville circuit, like some back alley fucking circus that had like the bearded woman or the fucking, something like that, the she-male, or something from a sideshow that would have like a full-on vagina, a full-on penis, kind of battling for attention. That's not accurate. And I think this documentary, because like I said, where else would you find out about stuff like this? Apparently, the intersex people oftentimes, but not always, present outwardly, even with their private parts, they present as one gender, but what's going on is inside their body, something else is going on. For instance, there's this very beautiful woman, and she does call herself a woman, and I'll call her a woman because she looks like a woman to me, but she is an intersex individual. She pretty much looks like a lady. I think her name is Alicia. And she has been very outspoken. She had apparently one of those there's only two genders, Steven Crowder debate me things that she debated this guy on. I never saw that. I'll have to look it up. But apparently Alicia was born presenting as a female, but had testes on the inside of her body, but no uterus, will never have a period, will never give birth. And, these testes were removed from her body without her consent by doctors when she was a young person before puberty. And she said that kind of screwed up her puberty, and she had to get infused with, puberty injections, whatever that would be, steroids and so forth. So, that's her story. There's another person, there's two other people. What I liked about this documentary, to give the filmmaker credit, I can't remember her name either, but to give her credit, they focused on three people that have been pretty outspoken about this topic. The second person, I believe, goes by Sean Safia, very tall individual, actually, at least looked tall to me, was raised female, but also had these, issues, whatever you want to call it, situations, but really felt male, but, was prodded and manipulated. And here's the problem with this. These are young children, babies even, that their bodies are being surgically altered, all in the name of, we got to do, this is we have to put these people into one of the other categories. So, very interesting film. So Sean Staffia's body was manipulated, not told that, you know, at the time she was kind of living as a she, but not even being told that she had this uniqueness to her body until things got, you know, really far. And then, you know, she eventually started feeling more and more, say, masculine, and started living as a male. And, you know, now is kind of, I think, I could be wrong, because I think it was like, I think she goes by the they, them thing, pronouns. So, interesting story. And then the final one was River, raised as a boy, but he was born without testicles. Had a fully functioning penis, but no testicles. You know, was just not even 12 years old, goes to the pediatrician with his mother. The pediatrician says to his mother, "Oh, have you told him yet?" And the mother says, "No, we're going to tell him soon." And the kid's sitting right there like, "What the fuck have you told me?" So the kid didn't even know that anything, you know, was out of alignment. Here's the big thing. You see the trend here. No matter what the actual situation, the biggest problem with all these stories, and I'm sure thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, or however many number of people there have been that have had situations, the children are not being told what's going on with their own bodies. They're not being told that their body is different than other people, yet they're subject to all these surgeries and so forth. Profoundly interesting and sad. And then this movie, I guess the filmmaker was inspired by this story that I've known about. In fact, I read a book on this a long time ago. The book is probably 25 years old. I think the book is titled "The Boy That Was Raised as a Girl." Sad story. Two twins were born to kind of these people that were not, you know, rich or anything. The twin boys were born. They took them in to have them circumcised. The story goes that the typical circumcision guy wasn't there. I don't know if it was like a priest or a doctor or whatever it was. So they had a replacement, and he was using like this fucking electric current instrument for the circumcisions, and the person, who I guess was not very experienced with giving circumcisions, and I mean, I guess that begs the question, two questions. A, how do you get experience doing circumcisions without doing circumcisions? And secondly, why would you need to do a circumcision in the first place? Which, that's a whole fucking can of ass right there. But I asked the question, and you fuckers can figure it out for yourself. What is the exact purpose or benefit to circumcision? Okay? So, then they basically fucked this kid. They circumcised his penis off. They fucking cut it off. Horrible. At the time, with the medical world as it was, couldn't be fixed, they said. The mom was so distraught. She saw this asshole guy on TV. This is another can of ass worms. I like that term, can of ass. I believe his name is Dr. John Money. And this gets very interesting, because this Dr. Money was this guy studying all these sex and gender orientations at the time. This is like the 60s, the 70s. But a lot of his terms, a lot of his thoughts are still kind of the basis for a lot of belief these days, you know, 30, 40, 50, 60 years later, about gender and so forth. And it's not what you're born with, it's how you were raised, etc. So this John Money guy, his thoughts have permeated to us. Okay, so keep that in mind. So the mom of this kid that's had his fucking penis removed, not by any fault of hers or whatever, I guess, unless you want to say, you know, like a lot of people brought their kid in for a circumcision and did not know what would happen. But think of all the parents this could have happened to, for all you circumcised fellows out there and parents of circumcised children. So the mom calls this doctor. She writes him a letter, old school, like back when you wrote letters to fuckers. This must have been the early to mid 70s, explaining the situation, looking for help. He gets back to her right away and says, "I've got an idea. Let's make this child a girl." and I can do an operation. I can give her a functioning vagina. She'll be fine. Never know the difference. Now, of course, I don't know what bill of goods he sold the mom and the father on, but, you know, you couldn't never give birth. I mean, basically taking a mutilated boy and trying to make him pass as a girl. And the mom, and so basically we're seeing all this. We go into this 20-minute interlude, and I actually took a restroom break during this point in the movie because I'm very familiar with this story. I read the fucking book. I saw the guy on Oprah. When he got to be older, and this doctor was a real creep, by the way. This Dr. Money, who, once again, all his thoughts have been the basis for a lot of the beliefs people have on transgender and stuff like that, gender identity. He was a creep. He would have the two twins come in. Now, one's a boy that's being raised as a boy, and the other one should be his brother, but's now being raised as a sister. And he's having them go through all these poses of, like, basically having them pose like they're having sex with each other. And it's so goddamn wrong. This fucker should rot in hell for eternity. If he never went to prison, he should have. And so, finally, around, I'm not sure what age, 12 or 14, David, who was being raised as Brenda, puts his foot down and says, I'm not going to see that fucking doctor ever again. And his father breaks down and says, well, we have to tell you what happened. So these two kids, most to the forefront, the Brenda David, who's being raised as Brenda, without his knowledge, is experiencing this, and his twin brother, they're being basically sexually assaulted by this asshole fucking money doctor. And the father says, okay, you don't have to see him, tells him the truth, finally. And then, the kid, he felt like it all made sense. Like, his identity made sense. He's like, oh, and he felt like relieved because now he knew it wasn't just in his head. Like, something actually happened to him that caused all this. And this whole, like, his family was told to move to another town after the surgeries and stuff so that the neighbors wouldn't say, hey, didn't you have two sons, not a son and a daughter? And all this crazy shit. So he somehow got an operation to have a penis put on his body. I don't know how functional it was. He became a stepfather. He married a woman that had 3 kids already, so he became a stepdad. He seemed to be living fairly well, but they show these interviews of him, and I saw this fucking interview with him and Oprah, and so he's talking to Oprah, and then he's talking to, like, this other guy, like an ABC News guy or something, and he looks very, very thin, like kind of scary thin, that type of thin, and the sad ending is that the guy committed suicide in 2004. So we take this really kind of interesting tunnel into that story, which apparently was the inspiration for this documentarian to make this movie. And she shows her 3 subject matters of this doc, this kind of backstory thing. I don't know how well that tied in, to be honest. It's certainly a fascinating story and a sad story. And I guess the tie-in is that all these terms and a lot of this stuff that people think about on both sides of these arguments, or maybe even on the pro-transgender operation argument, is from this Dr. John Money. So it's just kind of interesting, like, it's kind of part of the story, but not really, because that person, David, was not born intersex at all. He was born as a boy. He was basically mutilated and the victim of a experimentation on his body against his will, or without his knowledge, I should say, and probably against his will too. So that's not really intersex, though, because David was not born with issues or whatever. He was born fine, and then was basically by man's mistake, the person who did the botched circumcision. Now he's, and by Dr. John Money coming in, all these assholes, and his parents not telling him the truth for years and years. That's his story. How is that related to these three people and to all these intersex people? It is, but it's not. You know what I mean? So I kind of thought that that might have been a bit of a distraction, or kind of took away from the point. And I don't know what, I think, because now we watch documentaries in a different way than I think basically 40 years ago and previous. I think that, who's our Bowling for Columbine buddy? Michael Moore, Bowling for Columbine, you know, Fahrenheit 9/11, Fahrenheit 11/9, all his wonderful films. Sicko was a good one. All his stuff. I haven't seen a good Michael Moore film in a while, but Michael Moore, his whole deal, you know, he changed the way documentaries were distributed, the way that they were looked at, and also really the basic foundation of a documentary is you're not supposed to have as a filmmaker, you're not supposed to go into a documentary looking to make a point or looking to push a cause. You're supposed to just be documenting what the fuck happens. It's fucking hot, by the way. It's like 95 degrees. It's smoky. So that's why I'm all fucking bewildered. But basically, let me have a sip of water. Michael Moore, if you know your documentary stuff, he's kind of an agenda documentarian, but because his movies are so popular, that's kind of become the way that documentaries are made now, with a fucking agenda. So when a documentary doesn't have agenda, you kind of feel like, oh, it's boring, or what's the point? So I just want to throw that in the mix for you, for your cinephiles, okay? So moving forth in this fucking review, these three people, especially Alicia, it seems, are pushing in Texas for a intergender surgery on intergender youth, like babies. Like, you can't have, they're trying to push that you can't have surgeries put on these little kids unless the surgeries are necessary. And it seems like they got a lot of support, because it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like, why are they doing some of these surgeries? It's not for the kids' benefit, really. It's for the parents' benefit, to put them at ease, or whatever the fuck they're thinking. But a lot of it, as we've seen, if it's kept under such subterfuge, I wish this person just sitting in the car for fucking ever, with their car running, just putting fumes into the air. But if the child does not have the knowledge of what they're going through, they're living in this unawareness of their own body. Isn't that a shame? So they're pushing for these non-surgeries. Here's the other things about this movie. They do a thing where, like, they use like big songs, like Bruce Springsteen's got a song in there, and there's a couple of other like big songs. Our Lips Are Sealed, when they talk about how the kids, that was clever. I think it was the Go-Go song, Our Lips Are Sealed, when the kids are told not to talk about their situations. You know, don't tell your friends, they'll laugh at you, you'll never get married, whatever. They're using the song Our Lips Are Sealed by the Go-Go's, but they're actually using cover artists for the music, not the original artist, which I didn't mind, because you know all these songs by heart anyway, by heart. So I always hated that fucking term, by heart. I know it by heart. But these fucking terms, these fucking songs are in the movie. They didn't have the original artist. That was fine. It saves money, okay? If you make films, you know all about that there's songs you can use, songs you can't use. You gotta pay residuals for all these assholes. If you use a cover song of a famous song, it's typically about half the fee of the original artist, okay? Any fucking way. I should have rolled down that window. That would have helped me. God, fuck. Jesus. God. So goddamn hot. So moving forth. So we talk about the music. I did like the length of this movie, this doc, 90 minutes. Oh, here's my big, took me 19 minutes to remember. What did I not like about this movie? I did not like the title of the movie. And I'll tell you assholes why. Everybody. Well, what the fuck does that mean? I mean, it's such a nondescript title. If I was going to the theater and I saw Indiana Jones and I saw this asshole and that asshole and Transformers and all this fucking shit, summer box office bonanzas, and I saw everybody, I wouldn't know what the fuck that was. I just picked something else. Call the movie Intersex. Now you got me hooked. Now I'm paying attention. intersex. I don't understand, you know, to me it's just so goddamn obvious, some of these things. I mean, that's one thing you fucks should know about me. I've written many goddamn screenplays. I was working on one today. All of my screenplays have very good fucking titles, okay? So it upsets me as a film aficionado, as a filmmaker myself, when I can be, when I see movies that suffer, they suffer from a bad title. I think, where the fuck was I to not consult on this situation and give them a better title? I would have simply called this movie Intersex. What's the movie about? Intersex people. I mean, you can call it Intersex people if you want, but what's one goddamn word? Intersex. Okay, shit. Now I want to see this. Everybody. What the fuck is that? It's vague. It's nondescript. It has no punch to it. If you know, because basically you're going to say, oh, I want to see everybody. Oh, that's not about. It's about intersex people. Oh, wow. But if you call the fucking movie Intersex, people might buy a ticket. I might not be sitting in the theater by myself, filmmaker, studio, whoever the fuck. So I'm just trying to help. God, I'm hot and goddamn sweaty. So that's it, folks. Interesting doc. Okay, here's the other goddamn $1 million dick in the ass on this film. No offense to anybody. I'm just so hot. I'm saying all these vulgar things. But you watch this movie and whatever, because now the big topic of the day, I mean, because this is the I in the LGBTQIA plus situation. The I stands for intersex. The intersex is getting shadowed because the big thing that everyone's talking about, transgender, pride, transgender. It seems like transgender people have gotten all the shine recently. You could use this Intersex movie that I'm calling it, or Everybody, the name of the movie. You could really fuel either side of your fucking argument on this. I mean, the way that I would see it is, this movie is basically, in my opinion, it's calling for the end of these surgeries to children against their will. I would kind of push that. Are these children that are, you know, supposedly making these life-altering decisions at a very young age? And yes, you know, see, the thing is, if you talk to people about this subject and they don't know all the goddamn facts, and I don't know all the goddamn facts, but everybody kind of doesn't believe you when you say how young some people are when they're getting these transitional surgeries. There's some very young people that are getting these surgeries, 9, younger. And fuckers won't believe that, but it's true, assholes. I mean, you wouldn't, if a kid went to school and had a tattoo on their face, they would put their parents in jail. Yet, those same kids are having the option to get these gender transitions and these hormones. Just bringing up a point. The child could not go and buy a beer and say, well, I'm affirmed that I'm a beer drinker at age 9. But they could be affirmed that their gender is different at age 9. Just some fucking thoughts, assholes. Don't hashtag me. Or do. I could use the publicity, apparently. Because all my goddamn wonderful screenplays aren't being made. But any fucking way, enough about me. So you could use this Intersex movie, this Everybody movie, really to fuel any side of the argument. If you were someone that said, oh yeah, kids should get any surgery they want, their parents don't understand, their parents are oppressing them, the kids should be able to walk into a fucking hospital and come out whatever the fuck they want, then you could use this movie. I think you could take stuff from this movie and apply that as well. Because there's obviously kids that are intersex that have been going through a lot. And I think here's the thing, the trap, and it's not the movie's fault. It's the media's fault, or society's fault, or YouTube's fault, whatever the fuck's fault. This intersex conversation is still under the shadow of the transgender conversation, or debate, or argument, or controversy. You see what I'm saying? You should be watching this movie specifically to get awareness and learn about the intersex people. But what happens is the transgender scenario is so big right now that it overshadows these fine folks, okay? And the difference is that these people are not choosing this. They're having it thrust upon them by birth. The transgender people, in one way or another, are choosing. And you could say, well, they're not, they were born transgender. They didn't make a choice. Okay. But they have to go into the hospital. That's a choice. They have to pay the money for the surgery or get their insurance to pay for it. That's a choice. They have to take the hormones every day. That's a choice. So there is some choice involved. Okay. So I'm just saying it's interesting because even in this fucking movie, I'm watching this movie and still these, like, well, how does this relate to transgender? Well, it really shouldn't, because this is its own thing. And I feel like that's kind of the, I don't want to say irony, I don't know. I mean, just that's just a realization on my part that as a film viewer and a human being, I'm not still giving the intersex people, even as I'm watching their documentary, I'm still have them overshadowed by the transgender thing because, Dave Chappelle and this one and that one and all these people have fucking opinions. And I know at least 6 transgender people, most of them, as a matter of fact, 5, I believe, of the 6 are white men who've become women in transition, and 1 is a teenager, a friend of a friend, who has gone from female to male, or is in the transition act of that. So I do know people, but I can't say that I know any intersex people, but herein lies the rub. I probably do, I just don't realize it. You see what I'm saying? I know that they are people, and I know what they are presenting themselves to me, but according to an early statistic of this film, 1.7% of the population, which I assume they meant the US population, although I don't think they clarified, are in some way intersex. And once again, going back to one of my original points, it's not like you have a full functioning penis and a full functioning vagina. Oh, stay home and fuck yourself. It's like, no, you have some of some and some of the other, you see? So that's why it's very, now the transgender folks or people that believe in, binaries bullshit or whatever, they could point to this movie and say, well, hey, if you're always saying there's male or female, girls and boys, this and that, whatever the fuck. A friend of mine from the South used to say that his grandma used to say, boys got things and girls got slits. So, I mean, whatever type of thinking you have, this movie does make the point pretty fucking well that there is more than 2 genders. So Steven Crowder and your sign beware, they show the footage of Alicia walking out on him. There you go. So, I mean, definitely what I found in this movie is, well, if anyone gives you that there's only 2 sexes thing, and it's interesting because you say, well, are there more than 2 sexes for cats, or for crocodiles, or for frogs, or for dogs, or for hogs, or for cows? I mean, and who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? So it's interesting stuff. As you can see, I've kind of tiptoed through the tulips, Tiny Tim, on this film review. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody's opinions or feelings. I have my opinions. You have your opinions. It's a controversial topic. But I think that these intersex folks, I feel for them. I really do, because it's like, what do you say? I mean, it's unbelievable. And like I said, if there is a fault in this doc, I think it's the title of the doc, and I'm still trying to figure out how the David story from 20 years ago, it's the inspiration apparently for this woman to make this film, but I don't quite get, I could be inspired by watching Star Wars to write a vampire film, but I don't have to have a 20-minute segue into Star Wars in the middle of my vampire film. You see what I'm saying? So just thoughts, just me thinking, just you watching me think. Subscribe to Mike Messier. I've got 3 channels here, okay? This is one Mike Messier. This is where you and I are very intimate. I let it fly. I swear, I don't care about offending anyone or not offending anyone or getting big ratings or whatever the fucks. But if you want to share the URL or come back for more, I review every fucking pretty much every movie. I think I've seen every movie except the Transformers thing. I don't think I have much of an interest, to tell you the truth. If you're a pro wrestling or sports fan, One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan, that's my OG channel, which has even more of my stuff, my movie reviews going back to 2017. And if you want to see my films, you say, well, gee whiz, Mike, who the fuck are you? One man in a camera films for my original work. So go see this movie, enlighten yourself. If you have thoughts, leave them. Hope everyone enjoyed it.